What does it mean when you have random mundane memories that pop into your head out of nowhere? Or the really strange thoughts that feel like memories that must have happened? They are so real, except they're definitely not yours. It might happen when you're driving or washing dishes. You're suddenly pulled out of the present and dropped into someone else's life review on a street you never walked, but you can smell the rain on the pavement. Is that a little twist of grief in your body? Your nervous system is responding as though you lived this. And more than that, you're responsible for it. It's vivid. But when you search your timeline for the origin, there's nothing, because it's not yours. And that stops you cold. How could you remember something that never happened to you? And the thing is, this lines right up with the other weird random moments that you remember that are yours. Like in a room you haven't thought about in a decade, dust motes dancing in the light, that itchy sweater you still haven't donated. This memory has no trauma, no charge. It's just there. What should be a mental throwaway is preserved with a fidelity that's a little unnerving, more like a live feed to the most mundane coordinates in time that have no obvious reason to even still exist in your mind. And these pull at you the same way that the foreign memories do, with the same unsettled sense of something left unfinished. And this time, the question isn't, what is this? But why is this still active? These thoughts have a name: mind pops, or involuntary autobiographical memories, caused by subconscious processing of cues in your environment. That's what they say. But what if these memories aren't really random? Or sometimes not even yours? Imagine that every moment you've lived isn't gone, but like a room you just walked out of. Most times, we turned off the lights and closed the door. But for others, we cracked a window, giving a little air to the energy that got left there, that's still waiting for resolution. And modern science aligns to what shamans and sages have told us about these open tabs and how to close them. Across continents and centuries, the same understanding. The past isn't dead, and leftover memories are active entanglements to a resonant field. I'm Joy, your host of The Future Lore, where we explore mystery with curiosity and joy. So, like and subscribe, follow, rate, and review for your weekly reset of reality itself. Let's go. Our first stop on the timeline brings us to the Toltec tradition, specifically the lineage preserved through figures like Carlos Castaneda and Don Miguel Ruiz. They didn't view memory as a filing cabinet full of JPEGs from your past. They viewed the human energy field as a luminous egg, with every interaction you have as a transaction that creates filaments. So when you interact with a person or a place, you extend one of these filaments from your midsection to theirs, a literal energetic structure. If the interaction is clean and complete, then that filament will just dissolve. But if there's a lingering emotion attached, like longing, anger, confusion, or just a simple lack of closure, that filament hardens and stays hooked. This framework sees you physically walking around in the world with thousands of energetic fibers stretching out of your body, connecting you to coordinates in time that you walked away from years ago. Your being is entangled with a version of yourself that no longer exists, and that connection is draining you like a leaky battery. The Toltec sorcerers believed that the past is active and a heavy structural burden that prevents you from navigating the present because half your fuel is being siphoned off by ghosts. This is why they developed the practice they called recapitulation. Your therapist might look at revisiting the past as processing or analyzing, but the Toltec view is radically different. This goes way beyond understanding childhood or forgiving your parents. This is a full mechanistic process of power retrieval. The technique is specific, but requires nothing more than attention and breath. You sit in silence and inhabit the memory in your mind and give it space to become vivid. And then you use the sweeping breath to inhale while you pull your power back into your body. As you exhale, you blow attachments out of your system, returning what isn't yours and reclaiming what is. By witnessing the moment and breathing through it, you close the file, break the circuit, and draw your energy back to you. These randomly resurfacing memories are calls, and the Toltecs understood. Being willing to answer is how you take your power back. So they identified the problem. The past is active and drains you, and they found a solution. Call back that cord. But here's the question that haunted them. Why does the cord stay hooked in the first place? What makes some moments stick and others dissolve? To answer that, we go halfway across the world to the Vedic traditions of India. The Vedic sages describe memory using the term Samskaras. The word literally translates to impression, but another translation might be groove. Imagine your consciousness is a soft wax surface. Every thought, every action, every intense experience runs a needle over that wax, carving into your presence. Acting with intensity or repeating a thought pattern over and over deepens the pathway, but not metaphorically, physically, in our consciousness. And samskaras aren't just records of what happened. They are active seeds sitting dormant in the subconscious mind, the chitta, waiting for the right conditions. And this is the concept of vasanas, or tendencies. When the external environment matches the frequency of the stored groove, when you meet a person who feels like your old ex, or walk into a situation that smells like that old failure, that dormant seed sprouts. The needle drops into the old groove, and suddenly, you aren't reacting to the present moment. You're sliding down a pre-carved track from years ago. Picture this. You walk into a coffee shop, and the smell of espresso hits. Suddenly, your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, and you're in a different coffee shop. 10 years ago, the day your ex walked out. And your nervous system doesn't know the difference, still sliding down that groove. The samskara doesn't care that it's a different place, a different time. It only knows the frequency matches the stored pattern, and it's time to activate. This is the Vedic explanation for why we repeat patterns. Not because we're stupid, but because the groove, the pattern, the pathway is physically present in your subtle body. But this tradition offers a solution that mirrors the Toltec. They say samskaras can be burned, not through analysis, but simply through witnessing. You place it in the fire of observation, sakshibhava. Inside that light of pure, non-judgmental awareness, a samskara seed is roasted, and a roasted seed can't sprout. The Vedic meditation is a clearing process, locating those mundane memories, those random pop-ups, and holding them in the fire of attention until that groove softens and smooths out. Liberation, or moksha, is largely defined as the complete erasure of these grooves. Removing attachments from the past frees the soul in the present. That random memory isn't a glitch in your brain. It's a samskara asking to be burned so you can stop sliding down the old track. But here's the deeper question. Why do these grooves keep repeating? Why does the same pattern swing around again and again and again? To answer that, we turn to the Hermetic tradition, the esoteric wisdom of Egypt and Greece. You know the phrase, as above, so below. And while they saw that was true in space, they also understood it in time. Existence doesn't unfold along a straight line. Literally everything exists within the movement of cycles. The Hermetic principle of rhythm states that everything flows in tides, out and in, rising and falling. The pendulum swing is the model for all that is. So life isn't a linear progression, but a circular series. Those random mind pops aren't just history. They're active points on a repeating pattern that's always swinging back around. The Hermetic masters taught that you can neutralize the rhythm by witnessing the cycle without identifying with it. You observe the memory without taking a ride on the pendulum swing, and that breaks the correspondence. You don't forget the moment, but you loosen the grip of its echo, recalling the power of momentum back to your center. So, we have 3 distinct ancient systems, each revealing a deeper layer of the same truth. The Toltec identified the problem. Filaments of energy stay hooked, draining your power. The Vedic revealed the mechanism, grooves carved in consciousness, becoming active seeds that sprout when triggered. And the Hermetic showed the pattern. These grooves are part of a cycle that keeps repeating, a pendulum that keeps on swinging. And all 3 traditions point to the same solution. Witness the moment without resistance. Close the circuit. Because until you do, you aren't living in the present. You're just haunting a house built of old patterns and attachments. They knew that true power and true freedom only comes when you call all of you back home. But here's what the metaphors couldn't answer. Is this real? Are there actual, measurable, physical evidence that the past can be reset? That consciousness can reach back and change what's already happened? Because if these ancient sages were right, modern science should be able to show it. And what we're about to discover is, it does. So let's bring this into the lab, because what modern science is discovering about memory, time, and biology is starting to look suspiciously like those ancient maps rendered in high def. First, we have to look at the mechanism hiding in your cells right now. For decades, we thought biological inheritance was fixed. But it turns out the DNA you were born with has been taking notes, recording your life the whole time. The study of epigenetics, how environment changes genetic expression, changed the game by showing us that while the DNA script might be fixed, the notes in the margin are constantly changing. Research reveals that life experience leaves a physical mark on your genes. Trauma, stress, or even just wild novelty causes your body to add chemical tags to specific genes. These tags control how the genes express, meaning how they activate to control your cells, to say things like, carry out the message on this gene, ignore that one, turn the volume up here, mute that there. This means the past is physically present and active in your body, and not just a neural pathway in your brain, but a chemical annotation sitting on top of your genetic inheritance and legacy. And it's dictating how your body functions right now. And did I just say inheritance and legacy? I did, because these tags can be inherited and passed on. We have studies on the children of Holocaust survivors showing altered patterns on stress response genes. The trauma of the parent became the biology of the child. The memory of the event was literally encoded and passed down. Memories that aren't yours. But here's the critical part. These marks are reversible. They're not permanent scars. They're software settings. conscious intervention can physically edit the margin notes. You can rewrite the instruction manual that the past left in your cells. So, it's written in your body. But here's where it gets wild. The past isn't fixed in time. So let's push this boundary further. Rewiring biology is one thing. But to truly reset the timeline, we have to break the one rule of physics that feels unbreakable. The rule that says cause must always come before effect. Time runs in one direction. Experiments like John Wheeler's delayed choice quantum eraser, explored in our Retrocausality video, suggest something that sounds impossible. A measurement made in the present can influence the behavior of a particle in the past. In these experiments, a photon travels through a double-slit apparatus. We can choose to measure which path it took, making it behave like a particle, or not measure, making it behave like a wave. It shouldn't be able to be both. But the weirdest wrinkle in this time is that we can make the choice after the photon has already passed through the slits. And the data shows that the photon seems to know what choice we're going to make in the future, and it adjusts its past behavior to match. If we choose to measure it now, it behaved like a particle back then. If we choose to erase the information now, it behaved like a wave back then. This suggests nothing less than that the future, or your now, can reach back and change the state of the past. Not the event itself. You don't change the fact that the photon was fired, but you might be changing its state, its nature. So let's apply this to memory. When you bring full conscious presence to the past, yours or not, when you measure it with your awareness, you might be doing something significant by collapsing the quantum wave function of that moment, determining its state. Reaching back from the future and resolving an event that was previously in what quantum physics calls superposition, but we can call it undecided, unresolved, hazy, indefinite. So we've explored how the past is written in your cells, and that the present can reach back and change it. But how? How does a non-physical thought actually touch a physical molecule? For decades, neuroscience said it was impossible, a ghost trying to move a machine. But a new theory suggests that the answer has been humming in the background the whole time. This brings us to the electromagnetic field theory. Here's the problem it solves. Your brain has billions of neurons firing. Each one sends electrical signals. But here's the mystery. How do all those separate signals become one unified experience? Like, you see red, you hear a sound, you feel cold. Your brain could process these as three separate things, but you experience them as one moment, one unified you experiencing all three at once. And this is called the binding problem. For decades, neuroscience assumed the brain's electromagnetic field, the stuff we measure with EEGs, was just exhaust fumes from the engine of neurons firing. But a growing number of scientists are proposing something radical, that the electromagnetic field is more like the driver, the binding mechanism itself. When neurons fire synchronously in coordination, they create a physical electromagnetic field that extends through the brain. Not a byproduct, but the manifestation of the phenomenon that unifies all these separate signals into your one conscious experience. Think of it like an orchestra. The individual instruments make sounds, but that's not the music. Music is the instruments playing together. The field is the unified phenomena that emerges from individual synchronized activity. And here's the critical part. This field doesn't just exist passively. It influences which neurons fire next. So, neurons create the field, And then the field, in turn, shapes neuron firing, which creates more field. It's a feedback loop, or a cycle, some might call it. And this matters because your DNA is highly conductive and sensitive to electromagnetic frequency. So here's the bridge. When you shift your state of consciousness, when you move from anxiety to presence, from avoidance to witnessing, you are changing the pattern of the electromagnetic field of your brain. And that pattern is physical, broadcasting outward. It's why we can read brainwaves outside of the skull. Then your DNA, acting as an antenna, receives this signal. And that signal initiates the epigenetic editing we were talking about. Your consciousness uses the electromagnetic field to communicate with your DNA biology to rewrite the epigenetic tags of your past. The signal changes. The body responds. So now we have the mechanism. Consciousness broadcasts through an electromagnetic field. DNA receives it. Biology rewrites itself. But this only works if the past is somehow still active, still in a state of possibility, which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. Let's end this exploration at the very edge of the map, the many worlds interpretation. Proposed by Hugh Everett in the 1950s, this is a serious interpretation of quantum mechanics that says wave functions never collapse. Instead, every time a quantum event has multiple possible outcomes, all of them happen. The universe branches. In one branch, the particle went left. In another, it went right. Both are real. Both exist. If this is true, it means you're living in a multiverse of infinite branches. Every moment is a fork in the road. And here's what this means. The past doesn't exist in a single fixed state. It exists in a superposition, like we said before. Multiple versions, all simultaneously real, all waiting to be observed and collapsed into coherence. Now, bring this back to those memories that aren't yours. What if they are yours, just not from this specific branch? Some theories suggest that vivid memory of a street you never walked on could be a moment of an adjacent timeline bleed. Your consciousness might be touching a coordinate that exists on a nearby branch. A version of you, or maybe someone else nearby, made a different choice, walked that path, and the emotional weight of that moment was strong enough to ripple across the gap between worlds. And this isn't just sci-fi speculation. It's a way of understanding why consciousness feels larger than our linear history. That memory might feel foreign because it literally belongs to another consciousness in the field, and yours or not. It's asking you to make the leap. But here's the synthesis. Whether we look at epigenetics, retrocausality, electromagnetic fields, or many worlds, they all point to the same thing. You're not locked in a linear timeline. The past is pliable. It's physically present in your cells, entangled with your now, and responsive to your observation. Science is showing us the mechanism for what the shamans knew. You can edit the film and leave some on the cutting room floor. You can reset the timeline. But the mechanism is one thing, and living it is another. That random recollection of a mundane Tuesday afternoon coming out of nowhere, or even more disorienting, a thought that feels like a memory, but you're sure isn't even yours, a street you've never been on, a grief you didn't earn, like someone else's life that's tugging at your heartstrings. You've felt it, but you've never understood it. Here's why these moments keep calling. Because they never ended. Your consciousness is still right there, where the wisdom and science converge on the same truth. Not metaphorically, but literally. That moment is still broadcasting. Your body still receiving the transmission. When you walked away from that moment, maybe you didn't leave it all behind. The Toltec seers called this a filament, the energetic thread that stays hooked. Your electromagnetic field is still broadcasting to that coordinate in time, and your DNA, conductive and acting like an antenna, is still receiving that broadcast. Written into your cells as an epigenetic mark, a chemical tag that the Vedic sages understood as a samskara, a groove carved so deep that it becomes an active seed waiting to sprout. But here's what the ancients also knew. You don't just carry your own grooves. Since epigenetics shows that intense experience can be passed down, your ancestors' unresolved moments can be written into your cells. That panic that feels ancient? It might be. Your grandmother's fear encoded into your DNA, still asking to be witnessed. That moment isn't just in your past, it's in your present. And sometimes it's in your ancestors' past, reaching forward through your body. But the past isn't just active in your body, it's active in time itself. Physics calls this the block universe, all moments existing simultaneously in a four-dimensional landscape, nothing ever lost. The moment you keep remembering existing in the superposition, unresolved, indefinite, waiting. Every quantum event branches into multiple realities, every choice creating a new timeline. So what if the street from outside your life is a bleed through from an adjacent timeline in the block universe? Your consciousness touching a coordinate that exists on a nearby branch, a version of your future self entangled with your past self, and the moment asking you to complete the observation. Wheeler's delayed choice experiment showed something that the Hermetic masters understood as rhythm, that a choice made now can reach back and resolve a cycle that was previously left open. A measurement in the present collapses the wave function of the past. The pendulum swings back, but not to haunt you, to offer you a second chance, to integrate what was never left behind, whether it belongs to your timeline or someone else's. So when you finally decide to allow your full presence to experience that memory, yours or not, ancestral or adjacent, you become the observer. Your consciousness shifting your coherent, bound electromagnetic field of awareness. Again, a measurable fact. That new signal broadcasting to your DNA. The epigenetic mark begins to let go. The filament loosens, returning your energy. The samskara seed burning in the purer fire of awareness. And this is what recapitulation actually is. Using your presence to collapse the wave function of a moment that was waiting for you to complete it, allowing the moment to resolve. And not because you fixed it, but because you finally saw it for what it was. And you're not just healing your own timeline. You're resetting a coordinate that was active across multiple realities. And the moment you do, coherence cascades outward. Rupert Sheldrake says that we live in a universe of morphic resonance, that the whole has a memory, that systems inherit habits from the collective, that a pattern unbound at one point is then freed everywhere. When you soften that samskara in your cells, you're not just healing yourself. You're smoothing the groove of pain in the field. Your lineage is entangled. Your ancestors and descendants aren't separate from you. They're part of the same energetic system. But so are adjacent versions of you on nearby branches. And when you integrate fragmented memory, whether it's yours or ancestral from a timeline that almost was, you increase the coherence of the entire system. Your descendants inherit your freedom. Your ancestors feel the shift for what they carried. The adjacent timelines stop broadcasting the unresolved charge. You are the node where the collective pattern is released from chaos. And finally, you aren't doing this to the field because you are the field. There are so many ways to understand our own awareness as fractals of the absolute. Non-dual consciousness reveals that the observer and the observed are one. Panpsychism shows us that consciousness isn't something that emerges in brains, but the fundamental fabric woven into every atom, photon, and particle. You are the universe recognizing itself. That memory pop, it's a moment waiting for you to close the loop in what John Wheeler called the participatory universe, the eye that the cosmos grew to see itself through, the eye through which all timelines and all branches of what could have been recognize themselves and come home. So when you simply witness, separation collapses and reality realigns. You were always the alchemist, the universe, recognizing itself in that mundane Tuesday afternoon, or that street you've never walked, that twist of ancient grief, turning the lead of stuck time into the gold of pure presence. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need a protocol. You don't need a practice. You don't even need to understand all of this intellectually. The mechanism works either way. When you simply notice a moment without pushing it away, when you breathe into it instead of resisting, when you let it move through you instead of holding it tight, that's all the technique you need. Your presence is the measurement. Your breath is the bridge between your consciousness and the moment. And that's your actual power, not something called manifestation or positive thinking or spiritual bypassing. Not forcing some change, just allowing and trust. Because here's the truth. In this particular human life, our time is limited. And consciousness keeps touching these moments because the universe knows every coordinate you experience is an opportunity to be fully human and alive. And when you share what you see, you're not just telling us your story. You're completing the circuit for someone else. You're the witness that helps them recognize themselves. You're the node in the field that says, yes, this is real. You're not alone, and the past can be reset. Share what you see. Tell us what shifted, because your recognition is how the collective wakes up. Your past is only as heavy as the energy you leave there. So take a load off, drop it in the comments, and share. And if you want to explore more mysteries like this with curiosity and joy, subscribe and hit that notification bell on YouTube. Follow, rate, and review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen. Week after week, we're weaving ancient wisdom, the latest science, and wild theories into something that can actually change how you move through the world. Visit thefuturelore.com to join our free community and find all of our official links, which are at thefuturelore everywhere. Remember, you are far more powerful, far more strange, and far more connected than you've ever been told. Thank you so much for tuning in again, my loves. I am so lucky to be here with you to embrace the mysterious and stay curious.
In the future